Well, guys, it's now come down to this. Hard to believe. Another season is about to come to an end, as it's time for the final week, the Week 18 picks of the 2023 NFL season. Can't believe another season is about to be over 8 years of doing this. So anyways, last week, I went 11-5 for the third week in a row. Unbelievable how often it's happening. This is insane. And of course, here is the regular season stands and the playoff stands at the season end of the day. In the AFC, it's the Ravens with the bye, with Colts at Dolphins, Bills at Chiefs, and Browns at Jaguars. And the NFC, it's the 49ers with the bye, with Packers at Cowboys, Rams at Lions, and Eagles at Buccaneers. And my Super Bowl prediction right now is the Ravens over the 49ers. Alright, guys. So now let's get to my Week 18 picks. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about because there's so many playoff spots and stuff on the line. So first off, we start with the two Monday night games, as it starts off with the Steelers at the Ravens. As the Steelers won the last two, the Ravens haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won at home against them since 2019. So, of course, the Steelers beat the Seahawks last week to get, once again, another win season. I told you all at the beginning of the year, no matter how bad the Steelers will be, they'll always find a way to get a win record, potentially be in a playoff race somehow. Meanwhile, the Ravens absolutely obliterated the Dolphins as they clinched home field advantage for the first time since 2019. Has a chance, first time since 2019, to get 4 wins. But of course, since they've clinched the number 1 seed, they're going to rest their starters and all that. So this makes a good opportunity for Steelers. So anyways, for the Steelers, if they win and the Bills lose, and possibly even the Jaguars lose too, they'll get into the playoffs for the first time since 2021. They need a win, and they need a Bills loss or a Jaguars loss, and they can get in as the final seed. So meanwhile, actually no, they need a loss. I gotta look it up again because I'm now very confused. Yeah, they need a win, a Bills loss, a Jaguars loss, and potentially a Colts and Texans tie to get in as a wild card. So anyways, of course, this would be a very interesting game, and of course, always very wild with between Ravens and Steelers. But since the Ravens are resting stars and Steelers have a lot to fight for, I'm going to pick the Steelers for this one. And then we get to the second Monday night game, as it's the Texans at the Colts. A big one too, as the Colts won the last one. The Texans haven't beaten them since 2021 or 2022, and the Colts haven't won at home since 2021. So it's simple for here. Whoever wins this game is going to be in the playoffs. Either the Colts get in for the first time since 2020, or the Texans get in for the first time since 2019. But if they win and the Jaguars lose, whoever wins this game will clinch the AFC South, which will be the first time for Colts since 2014 and the Texans since 2019. And even with a tie, they could potentially both get in. Although they would require Jaguars loss too, and the Colts would win the division because they have the tiebreak over the Texans still. But of course, whoever loses this game is pretty much guaranteed to be eliminated and all that. Unless the Steelers lose, then it maybe potentially opens up a possibility for the loser to get in and all that. So this is a very interesting game, as the Texans destroyed the Titans last week to get their first win season in 4 years. Meanwhile, the Colts beat the Raiders in a close one. This is going to be a very interesting game. And the aspect of this game is a little bit different how it was in week 2. Because remember, the Colts don't have Richardson like they did that week. And he torched the Texans. And Stroud was starting to finally show up his first good game in his career at that point. So the dynamics of this game could be very different. But I still will pick the Colts for this one. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans maybe get an upset. Alright, then we get to the Sunday games. Starting off with the Buccaneers at Panthers. Buccaneers won the last 2. The Panthers haven't beaten them since 2022. And the Buccaneers haven't won it in Carolina since 2021. So the Buccaneers, if they win, they clinch a playoff spot for the 4th year in a row and clinch the NFC South for the 3rd year in a row. That's all they have to do. If they lose, however, they will not get to the division. They maybe could still get a playoff spot if they lose. Yeah, if they lose, or no, they have to tie, and the Seahawks and Packers lose, and they can still get in as a wild card. And if the Falcons win, they still can win the NFC South in that regard. But if they lose, the Saints win to get the division, or the Falcons too to get the division, and the Packers or Seahawks win, then they're eliminated. So a lot on the line for this game, after they got spanked really hard by the Saints with the division clincher on the line at that point. and try and get their first win season since 21. Meanwhile, the Panthers, of course, got obliterated by Jaguars, got the #1 overall pick for the Bears, as just a miserable season for them whatsoever, trying to avoid their second worst season in all time and all that. But I'm going to pick the Buccaneers for this one. And then it's the Browns at the Bengals, as the Bengals won the last... No, the Browns won the last one. The Bengals haven't beaten them since 2022, and the Browns haven't won in Cleveland since 2021. So, the Browns, of course, spanked the Texans on Thursday night to clinch their first... to clinch the playoff spot, and they're trying to get their first 12-win season since 1986, so a lot on the line there. And, of course, they're stuck as the 5th seed no matter what, so they're going to rest their starters. Meanwhile, the Bengals lost a close one to the Chiefs as they're trying to avoid their first losing season since 2020. If the Bengals win, this would be the first division ever in NFL history with every team has a winning record. We finally could potentially see that now after all this time and all that. And, of course, Browns rest their starters, so I'm going to pick the Bengals for this one to get that first ever win season everyone in the division. And then it's the Vikings at the Lions, as the Lions won the last two. The Vikings haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won in Detroit since 2020. So, of course, the Vikings, they have a playoff spot on the line. Very hard chance, but they need a win, and they need a Packers, Seahawks, Buccaneers, and Saints loss potentially to get in as the last spot. But if they lose, or any of the teams, the Packers, Saints, Seahawks, Buccaneers, if any of them win or the Vikings lose, they're eliminated. And the Lions, of course, if they win and the Cowboys and Eagles lose, I think, they will get the #2 spot. Otherwise, right now, they're stuck as the free seed if the Cowboys win. So, of course, the Vikings got obliterated by the Bears completely. Not the Bears. The Packers got completely destroyed by them. The Lions, meanwhile, lost a close one to the Cowboys when they got honestly screwed over at the end. But yeah, the Lions have a lot to play for still, so I'm going to pick the Lions for this one. And then it's the Jets at the Patriots, as the Patriots won the last 15, longest division streak in the league right now, I think. The Jets haven't beaten them since 2015, and they haven't won in Foxborough since 2008. As the Jets got spanked by the Browns, as they're just trying to avoid a worse season last year, which they needed in order to win to get the same record last year. Patriots, meanwhile, lost the Bills in somewhat of a close game right there. They actually put a good fight to the Bills, but they just couldn't clinch the deal, as they're trying to maybe get one more win for Belichick before he probably goes at the end of the year. These teams are terrible, of course, but of course the Patriots have that streak going, so I'm going to pick the Patriots still for this one. All right, then we get to the big one in the NFC South, as it's the Falcons at the Saints. This should have been Ravens-Steelers spot instead for Saturday. But the Saints, the Falcons won the last two. The Saints haven't beaten them since 2022, and they haven't won at home against them since 2020. So, of course, whoever wins this game could potentially win the division. The Saints, if they win and the Buccaneers lose, they'll get in. Clinch a playoff spot in the NFC South for the first time since 2020. If the Falcons win and the Buccaneers lose, not only will they have a better record than last year, but they will clinch a playoff spot for the first time since 2017, and they'll clinch the NFC South for the first time since 2016. Now, of course, if the Falcons lose, they're eliminated. The Saints, meanwhile, even if they can't win the division, they can still get in as a wild card spot. They just need a Seahawks and a Packers loss, or a tie. One of them's got to tie, one of them's got to lose. But if they win and the Seahawks and Packers lose, or one of them ties, they can get in still as a wild card, potentially. So it's a lot more easier for the Saints than the Falcons. So the Falcons, of course, got obliterated by the Bears and all that to get another losing season. The Saints, meanwhile, got a very impressive victory over the Buccaneers to get them a spot where they can clinch a division or a wild card spot still. So yeah, I'm going to pick the Saints for this one. And then it's the Jaguars at the Titans, as the Jaguars won the last three. The Titans haven't beaten them since 2021. And the Jaguars, if they just win, they clinch the playoff spot for second year in a row and clinch the AFC South for second year in a row. It's right there. Now, if they lose, they can't win the division anymore because the Colts or Texans, or one of them's going to win or both of them are going to tie, and they'll have the tiebreakers over them. But they could still get in as a wild card potentially, but it's not going to be easy. I'm looking it up again, trying to find them. They can get in if they tie and the Steelers lose, or the Steelers, Broncos lose or tie, and the Colts and Texans don't end in a tie. But if they lose and the Steelers win, they would be eliminated. So, a lot on the line for this game, too, still. So, of course, the Jaguars finally ended their 4-game losing streak after they just shut out the Panthers. Finally get a second straight win season. The Titans, meanwhile, got obliterated by the Texans as nothing's going right for them. I'm going to pick the Jaguars still for this one. And then we get to the 4 p.m. games. As we start off with the Seahawks at the Cardinals. As the Seahawks won the last 4, the Cardinals haven't beaten them since 2021, and they haven't won at home against them since 2020, as the Seahawks try to get their second straight win season. So for the Seahawks, wildcard aspirations are still on the line. To get in, they need a win, and they need a Packers lose, or they can get in with a tie plus a Buccaneers loss or tie, or the Packers lose, or they can get in with a tie with a Packers loss and a Saints loss or tie. So basically, they need a win, and they need a Packers, Saints loss, and potentially a Buccaneers loss to get in as the last spot. But of course, if they lose, or the Packers win, or the Saints win, they're eliminated. So the Seahawks got a lot on the line here, trying to avoid their first losing season since 21, after they lost to the Steelers in a close one. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, impressive victory over the Eagles. How funny, too, the Cardinals have embarrassed both the Cowboys and Eagles this year. Very impressive job showing that they're not as bad as their record indicates, unlike last year. Hard competitive fight. This could be an interesting game, too, but I think I'll still pick the Seahawks for this one. But hey, I won't be surprised if the Cardinals pull off the upset. And then it's the Bears at the Packers, as the Packers won the last 8. The Bears haven't beaten them since 2018, and haven't won in Lambeau since 2015, as the Packers try to get their first win season since 2021, trying to avoid their second straight losing season. So the Packers, just like last year, all they have to do is beat the Bears, and they can get in for the first time since 2021. And then if the Rams lose too, they can move up to the 6th seed. Whereas if they win, if the Rams win, they're stuck as the 7th seed no matter what. Now, of course, if they not even saying how they can potentially miss the playoffs, but yeah, if they lose and the Saints and Seahawks win, they're eliminated. So yeah, a lot on line in this game, just like last year. The Bears got a very impressive victory over the Falcons last week. Meanwhile, the Packers got a very, very impressive victory over the Vikings last week to try and get them in a position to clinch a playoff spot. And I'm going to pick the Packers for this one. And then it's the Chiefs at the Chargers. As the Chiefs won the last 4, the Chargers haven't beaten them since 2021, and they haven't won at home against them since 2013. So, of course, the Chiefs beat the Bengals last week to clinch a playoff spot in the division. Now, they're stuck as the 3rd seed no matter what, so they're probably going to rest their stars, even though I haven't heard anything yet about that. So, unbelievable, 3 teams potentially could do that. Meanwhile, the Chargers lost to the Broncos as their season just keeps being miserable. So, yeah, this will be a very interesting game. The Chiefs, like I said, they have nothing to play for, so they might rest their starters. So, I can see it's just like I did in 2020, a Chargers victory, which I'm not sure if they're going to rest their stars, but I'm sure they will. So I'm going to pick the Chargers for this one. But if the Chiefs somehow don't rest their stars, then it'll be changed to the Chiefs. But right now, if they rest their stars, I'm picking the Chargers. And then it's the Broncos at the Raiders. As the Raiders won the last 7, the Broncos haven't beaten them since 2019, and they haven't won on the road since 2015. As the Broncos try to get their first winning season since 2016. So, of course, both teams are eliminated. This spot will determine who gets the 2nd seed, though, because if the Raiders win, they got the 2nd seed locked up in the AFC West. And the Broncos will, too, if they win. So, the Broncos beat the Chargers to get themselves in position to get their first win season after all these years. Meanwhile, the Raiders had a hard-fought game, but they lost to the Colts to clinch another losing season and missing the playoffs. But I'm going to pick the Raiders for this one. And then it's the Eagles at the Giants, as the Eagles won the last 4. The Giants haven't beaten them since 2021. So the Eagles, of course, humiliated themselves after they lost to the Cardinals last week. They've gone 1-4 since. They're not looking good at all. They look horrible going into the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Giants had a competitive game against the Rams, but once again can't pull it off. Like the Giants, since start off 2-7, they've gone 3-4 since. They've looked a lot better and all that. And remember, they almost beat the Eagles on Christmas Day, remember. So, that's very interesting. So, the Eagles, if they win and the Cowboys lose, they will still clinch the NFC East for the 2nd year in a row. And depending on, and if that happens and the Lions lose, they can still get the 2nd seed, so it's still not being a bad spot in the division stands wise and all that. But if the Cowboys win or if they lose the Giants, they're stuck as the the 5th seed, no matter what, will have to visit the NFC South like the Cowboys did last year. This is a very interesting game. The Eagles are struggling. The Giants honestly have some momentum right now in comparison. They almost beat them. I almost want to say I might pick the Giants in an upset, but I still will pick the Eagles for it, but I won't be surprised if the Giants get it. Like, it's that on the line. Alright? Then it's the Rams at the 49ers. As the 49ers won the last 9, the Rams haven't beaten them since 2018. As the Rams try to get their first win in season since 2021. Now, of course, both teams are actually resting their stars, which I'm not surprised by the 49ers, but the Rams, I know you're in the playoffs, but if you win, you can get the 6th seed unlock, whereas if you lose and the Packers win, you're going to fall down to the 7th seed. Would you rather face potentially the Eagles or Cowboys or the Lions? So I find that a little weird. So 5 teams are resting their starters. Unbelievable. So the 49ers, of course, spanked the Commanders to clinch the number 1 seed and all that. Meanwhile, the Rams beat the Giants in a close one as they clinched their playoff spot too. So, since both teams are resting their stars, I think by default I might just pick the 49ers and all that. Probably be a close game though. And as the Cowboys at the Commanders, as the Cowboys won the last one, the Commanders haven't beaten them since 2022, and the Cowboys haven't won in Landover since 2021. Cowboys, if they win or the Eagles lose, they will clinch the NFC South for the first time since 2021. And of course, if they win, they will be locked as the 2nd seed and all that. So the Commanders, of course, got spanked by the 49ers, is still on track to maybe get the number 2 overall pick, which they're fighting with the Cardinals and Patriots to get. Cowboys, meanwhile, had a close game and barely beat the Lions because they got robbed. So Cowboys in a position to clinch the division and the number 2 seed. I'm going to pick the Cowboys for this one. Maybe the Commanders will pull off an upset victory like they did last year. And then finally, Sunday night, the huge matchup on the line, as it's the Bills at the Dolphins. As the Bills won the last 2, the Dolphins haven't beaten them since 2022, and the Bills haven't won in Miami since 2021. Whoever wins this game will clinch the AFC South. Either the Bills will get it for the 4th year in a row, or the Dolphins will clinch the AFC South for the first time since 2008. Also, whoever wins this game will be set as the 2nd seed in the AFC side. And so the Dolphins, of course, even if they lose, they're still in the playoffs no matter what, but they'll be stuck as the 6th seed in the playoffs and have to visit the Chiefs. Bills, meanwhile, they have a lot to play for, because if they win, of course, like I said, they'll clinch the division and they'll get the 2nd seed on lock. But if they lose and the Steelers win, they will be eliminated from the playoffs, because they have the Browns have a better record than them. The Colts and Texans, whoever wins that game, will have the tiebreaker over them. And the Steelers, if they win, the Bills lose, they'll have the tiebreaker over them. So the Bills will be eliminated if they lose and the Steelers win. They could still get in if the Jaguars lose, though, and get in as the last spot. But a lot's on the line for the Bills this game. They can miss the playoffs, even going 10-7. So very important for them to get this win. After they barely beat the Patriots, they win 4 in a row. The Dolphins, meanwhile, got obliterated by the Ravens. Not looking so good in that regard. So this will be a very interesting game. This might be a bold pick, especially since the Bills have all the momentum and statistically are a better team, and the Dolphins got obliterated by the Ravens. But I still am going to pick the Dolphins for this one, because I think they might be able to recover from their loss from like week 4. Remember when they got obliterated by the Bills, and get the victory done. Because remember how close their games were last year. Dolphins played a lot tougher when they host the Bills and all that. So yeah, those are my picks for week 18. I cannot wait for, of course, Steelers at Ravens and Texans at Colts on tomorrow. And, of course, all the Sunday games to wrap up the year. So my picks are the Steelers over the Ravens, the Colts over the Texans, the Buccaneers over the Panthers, Bengals over the Browns, Lions over the Vikings, Patriots over the Jets, Saints over the Falcons, Jaguars over the Titans, Seahawks over the Cardinals, Packers over the Bears, Chargers over the Chiefs, but that's if the Chiefs rest their stars. Otherwise, I'm picking the Chiefs. The Raiders over the Broncos, Eagles over the Giants, 49ers over the Rams, Cowboys over the Commanders, and Bills over the Dolphins. And if I got all my picks correct, this would be the playoff spots right now. The Colts would move up to the 6th seed, and the Steelers would move up to the 7th seed. And yeah, this would be the case. There we go. So if all my picks are correct, that's how the playoffs will be. Ravens with the bye, Steelers at Dolphins, Colts at Chiefs, Browns at Jaguars. And the NFC would be the 49ers with the bye, with Rams at Cowboys, Packers at Lions, and Eagles at Buccaneers. Alright, guys. So those are my picks. See you all next Monday night. I mean, next Monday after the season's over. I'm going to do my playoff picks, and then we'll see what happens. So see you all next Monday for my picks, and I cannot wait to see the season end. What a wild season it was.